was outstanding, but we want to go ahead and move the program along. We will, since we're starting a little late for this one, we will extend, so we will go to 12:15 for this session, and then we will go to lunch. And lunch says on your program that it's going to be in here, but we're going to go back to the LaSalle room, which is where we were yesterday for lunch. So we'll have our lunch session there, and that we'll wrap up after that. So now we have our best practices panel number 2, and as you know from yesterday, again, there's a lot of ideas and information shared on these panels, and a lot of ideas that you then take back and implement where you are. So first I want to get started. I will introduce, as we've done for the other parts of the program, introduce the moderator, and she will give a quick introduction to our panelists. So Joanne Custer, she's an entrepreneur and business journalist. She leverages a background in consumer economics and personal finance to develop products, content, and programs for organizations and businesses. Her work has appeared in major business media and is used by Fortune 500 companies. She is considered a thought leader in financial education, content, and strategy. She writes the Money Godmother blog and has authored numerous publications. She advocates for entrepreneurship, founded nonprofit groups, and speaks out about entrepreneurship, savings, investing, and leaving a legacy. She received her Bachelor's of Science from Iowa State University, and she is also the state chair for Money Smart Week Iowa. So, Joanne. Yeah.
Thanks, Alejo. I'd like to introduce our panelists quickly, and we want to get right to the meat of this session and the questions, so I'm going to go through it rather quickly. Our first speaker will be Katrina Roy, who is with the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions Communications Department, which provides financial education for the state of Washington. Katrina gives financial presentations on topics such as identity theft, financial fraud, budgeting, investing, saving, with the purpose of educating the public on how to be more responsible. Katrina graduated from Johnson & Wales University in Denver, and she's going to give us an in-depth look at specifically one of her programs, the Washington Reads program. Gina Vincent is with the FDIC's Dallas Community Affairs program staff as a community affairs specialist. She assists financial institutions in developing strategies that are responsive to the credit, service, and investment needs of their community. And she has been in that role a while, but she's also been a financial institution examiner for 17 years, working with South Texas and Eastern Oklahoma. An executive leadership program and USDA graduate school alum, Gina has participated in numerous assignments for the FDIC, including special assistant to the Division of Supervision and Consumer Protection Director in Washington, special assistant to the regional director in Dallas, and regional recruitment coordinator and acting supervisory examiner. Gina holds a bachelor's degree in finance from Pittsburgh State University in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and she volunteers her own time to do Money Smart Week, or financial things for college women as well. Gina's going to give us a look from the sister campaigns. Anybody who's not in the district, she has founded and helped found 4 campaigns and is working on number 5. David Mansell is the director of the Office of Financial Literacy at the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. In this position, he takes a leadership role on all issues of financial literacy and capability and supervises the department's related activities and programs and initiatives. David serves as executive director of the Governor's Council on Financial Literacy, state chair of the Wisconsin's Jumpstart Coalition, and is a member of the Board of Visitors for the School of Human Ecology at University of Wisconsin-Madison. President George W. Bush appointed Mr. Mansell to receive the President's Advisory Council on Financial Literacy from January 2008 to 2010, and that was to serve on that council, not to receive anything. David's going to give us a perspective from when your state has the reins as far as Money Smart Week, because in Wisconsin, it comes from the state and is top down. So welcome to our panelists. Katrina, let's start with you.
Good afternoon. All right, so I need no further introduction. Here are a couple events that DFI does specifically. Our reading days, our Be Money Smart displays, and some library presentations. So here's just kind of our report at a glance. That number would be really awesome if it were true. It's not. That was kind of one of our challenges that I will talk about in a moment. But we did have close to 200 events in Washington this year. And also, this was my first Money Smart Week campaign, so forgive me if I can't answer questions or anything like that. So our Reading Days was kind of the big program that was my baby this year, and I had a lot of fun with it. Jumpstart Coalition, the Washington Coalition, partnered with DFI, and the program basis is we invite all of our Washington State community leaders to go into their local elementary schools and read a financial literacy book. So this year was Dollars and Cents, the Bernstein Bears. It's a great book. And it's all about allowance and kind of a checkbook kind of thing. So it was a good book. Our process, we sent out emails to all of the community leaders, city council members, mayors, school board members, people like that. And we sent out an email, and then we would follow up with a phone call because they're very difficult to get a hold of. Another challenge. Can't see that far away. So that's who we asked to participate. We would then, as soon as we got a hold of our readers, which we would start with a few years ago, we tried to do it contacting schools first, and then they would get frustrated with us when we couldn't provide them a reader. So we first provided the reader, and then we would go out and look for a school kind of in their region for them to go and read at. And then as soon as we had everybody all coordinated up, we would do a social media post saying who was going where. So if bigger media wanted to come and promote, they could. They would have to just contact us first, and then we would go through them. So some of our challenges, we had a lot of volunteers. Our community leaders were really excited about the program. A lot of them wanted to participate. It was even harder to get a hold of school principals than it was to get a hold of our city officials, which was kind of odd. So we were only able to schedule 18 readers. Let's see, April was also the standardized testing month, so we had to work around all of the schools' testing for 3rd through 5th grade. So that was very difficult, but they were very willing to try and squeeze us in somewhere. And it's like a 45-minute program, so it was pretty easy to get in and get out as quick as we could. Principals were also a little nervous inviting strangers into their schools. They didn't really know who we were, and there wasn't a whole lot of face-to-face contact before we went in and started reading. So there was a lot of trust that they had to have in us. And I believe I only had one principal that was really like, I don't know you, I don't want you in my school. And we ended up working with him anyways, and he was pretty happy about it. So some feedback. Teachers were pleased. Everybody had a really good time. I got a lot of thank you emails, and a lot of the kids wanted to write thank you letters out to their readers, so it was pretty cute. Students were very engaged, so it's crazy. It's a book about checkbooks, and kids were like, this is really cool, and they had a bunch of questions, and they were good questions. We did have a couple of readers go into some lower income areas of our communities, and they were a little awkward talking about allowances when kids weren't really getting allowances because the families didn't have that kind of money. So that was a little awkward for some of our readers. The book was also a little advanced for the younger kids, good for the older kids, so there's kind of a kink that we have to work out for next year is to find a book that's better ranged for everybody. And we already have a list of a bunch of people that are ready to participate next year as well, so it's kind of a great database we have going now. So this isn't one of our library events. It's not really an event. We just keep displays in libraries, and it's got information on entrepreneurs and job training and small business and things like that. So just some good information for people to take. So this is where our really large numbers came through. Our Tumwater Library had 80,000 people a day. There's 18,000 people in Tumwater, so that was not a thing. So we had to contact a lot of the libraries and be like, hey, what's up with this number? Well, a lot of the libraries use door counts, and their door counts don't reset. So they were sending us these big 80,000, 60,000 numbers, and they're like, oh no, that's from like 2006. We've just had that many people in our library since then. So we had to go through and do a whole bunch of math. So we had 635,000 people this year. It was awesome, except not really. So library presentations, also a little sad. We've got to do some work there. We were only able to do 2 presentations throughout the Money Smart Week, and we had 7 attendees, 4 at one, 3 at the other. It was great. We had some really great in-depth conversations with those 7 people. So that was a plus, but we'd like to get some more people, and they're kind of notorious for low attendance. So we weren't expecting a whole lot, but something to work on for next year. Promotion only consisted of a couple of social media pushes in libraries, carrying flyers. So here's just our social media promotion. It was really light. We're only a 3-person communications team at DFI, and this was my first year, so usually it's a 2-person team. So this is going to be my big thing next year, is trying to get the word out a little more. We do have several Facebook pages. We even have a Money Smart Week Washington Facebook page, has 4 followers. So we're going to work on that as well. And we do have a blog that we did a couple posts on, including all of the readers that we were having coming and where they could go and where the media, who the media could contact so that they could go into the schools. And then this is our Twitter, so just a couple of our example posts there and pictures. We invited lots of feedback. So we got a couple of pictures from participants, and then our Facebook pages as well. And that's that.
Thank you, Katrina, and way to go to stay within your 10 minutes. Awesome. Gina.
Okay, luckily I talk really fast, so we're in luck. But full disclosure, I've been asked to talk about the sister campaigns, and although I helped found these 3 campaigns that I'm going to talk about today, I'm no longer involved in them. So fortunately, we have a couple of colleagues in the audience that are, so Susan Kaiser with the Federal Reserve and Al Coleman with the FDIC. Bail me out in the question and answer section if I can't answer the questions. But anyway, I was involved with them more years than I care to count, though. So sister campaigns. Alejo's really nervous about this. He's finally given us our day. So as you know, Alejo would like this to be Money Smart Week across the nation, but we're a little, frisky down there in Texas, and we want to do our own thing. So regardless of the fact that every year I go back to them and I ask them, could we please change this to Money Smart Week? There's all these benefits. They just want their own identity. So there's really nothing else behind it. We just, it started in Austin, keep Austin weird. They want to do their own thing. And, Dallas-Fort Worth went on with the same trend, and then Houston, almost there with Houston Money Week, but just a little bit different logo. But I just wanted to start, before I highlight some of the fresh ideas that I think they implement in some of the sister campaigns, I wanted to reiterate that they're just like us. They just have different branding. And there is a lot of challenges in the branding. You don't have the benefits of being a full national partner. So it's not necessarily the way to go, right, Alejo? Okay. So with that said, that's the only difference. But they do they do most of the things the same way that we all do. And I just wanted to highlight some best practices that I've seen throughout the 5 or 6 campaigns that I've been involved in. They involve a diversity of partners, and we've talked about that actually a couple of times so far, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But I wanted to reiterate that some of these partners that I had in my notes have already been mentioned, and that would be, like your military bases. Wasinki is here, represents Fort Bliss, and has been involved and taken some time to bring programming to the military bases, and we've been very successful there. Faith-based has been mentioned. Again, if you can get in the churches, the synagogues, so on and so forth, you have a very enthusiastic and captive audience who really needs to hear the messaging, and it's a great place to get the information that they need in a place that they have confidence and trust. Prisons is something that we're going to target in El Paso and Las Cruces this coming year. We talked a lot about that. Al's actually been in the prison system in Dallas, and it's been very successful. Clearly a captive audience, right? It's a captive audience. Lots of security, though. You think the security's bad here? It's really bad there. But it's a rewarding experience. Employers have been talked about. Gary's been a wonderful partner for us in the Dallas market, working, getting us some lunch and learns to the huge employers, and that's been really successful. I would say in southern New Mexico, we've been incredibly fortunate to have the support of our county and city government. One of the things that we did that was a little bit unique there is we brought the CFPB and FDIC Money Smart for older adults and did senior scam jams in the community centers. And so that was, a little bit different and somewhat popular. Housing authorities have been mentioned. ESL providers are wonderful opportunities. They're happy to give you some time to that captive audience to bring the messaging. Just last night, diversity of partners, this is what I'm talking about. The lesson here is not to hang out in bars, but we were at the bar last night, and I won't talk about why I went over and spoke to these millennials, which we've been talking a lot about, being hard to reach audience, right? But there was a table of millennials, and a wager was involved, and I did go over there and talk to them. Ends up that they're active in a local nonprofit here in Chicago called Chicago Ideas. And their mission is, when a broad spectrum of thinkers and instigators share ideas, we have the power to transform the world. These guys get together. They have a week. Their co-chair is the mayor. It's coming up October 12th through like 14th or something. And they have monthly lunch and learns. And I started talking about, have you ever brought financial education to the table? And they're like, yeah, we have. And we're very excited. What are you guys all doing here? And I said, Money Smart Week. And they're like, we've heard of it, and sign us up. And so they have 500 youth that they reach out to. And they're like, we'll do some programming during April. So I have their cards if anybody's interested. But just look for your partners in unique places. Leverage existing programs. The FDIC and Federal Reserve Bank have wonderful curriculum. We definitely do what we call train the trainers every year there to make sure all the presenters are comfortable teaching the curriculum. It's very successful. I'm not going to hit on it too long. Yvonne talked yesterday about captive audiences. That's been extremely successful for us. Word of mouth marketing works best. We paid a ton of money in the past in all of our markets to do TV, radio, newspaper, billboards. We've done it all. And when we do the surveys and we ask them how they heard about the classes, referrals. They heard it from people they trust, family, friends, or service providers. So word of mouth works good. Meet regularly and engage everybody. I say communication is key. Make people feel a part of something important on a regular basis so they don't forget us. And then just ask every partner to bring something to the table. We sit in a room, we come up with all these great ideas, and then everybody leaves and thinks somebody else is doing it. But say, if that's a great idea, why don't you go bring a couple of prison sessions to the table? Don't let them walk out with just the idea. Make them accountable. All right. So fresh ideas. This is Austin, Financial Fitness Greater Austin. They do a kid contest, which a lot of us do kid contests, but I think what's interesting there is they've incorporated an adult contest. They do it in English and Spanish, and the participants have a choice of doing a credit module or a budget module. And what it is they ask them to go through some curriculum, finish some testing, and write an essay. And then we judge the essays. And what you see here are some of the winners. And I can just say that it's been really inspirational to us to hear about how they've taken what they learned home to their entire families. And so, sometimes we forget about, really challenging the adults as well as the children. And so I think that's something that they've incorporated really successfully there. And I just wanted to read a quote from one of the participants. And it said, she said, it gave me the opportunity to spend time on my finances and put things into perspective. So it's like we all know we need to, but it took the contest to make her focus and do it. And so she was a winner. And then another winner that we had one year, it was really fun, is she was actually a credit counselor for one of our local nonprofits, but she participated in the contest as well. And she told us in her essay about how she learned about budgeting. And so she, instead of going and getting coffee every day, she bought a coffee maker and put it in her office. And she was so excited about how much money she had saved. And she's a credit counselor, okay? So she learned something through the contest as well. And so that was really cool. This is Dallas, or DFW now, because we started in Dallas and we grew to Fort Worth, so now it's FFDFW. Two of the things that I thought were really kind of unique there is their partnership with the Mexican consulate. I've been involved in several financial fairs in several cities throughout the years. To limited success, clearly. It's hard to get people off the street to come if you don't have something else going on. We've incorporated the zoo idea too, and it rained on us, but we tried. But we did a partnership of a financial fair with the Mexican consulate, and they have mobile consulates. And so they literally brought that to our financial fair, and both times that we did that, we had 600 people there at our fair. And so what you see are a couple of pictures from the ones, and they brought entertainment in, and it was just this huge festival and extremely successful. Our exhibitors actually got tons of people to talk to and distributed a lot of information. And then something that we incorporated in Dallas this year, which we're really going to scale in coming years, and even outside of Money Smart Week, are our partnerships with, we did it at University of Texas, Arlington, but we're going to take it to other college campuses as well, is a credit building workshop. But what it was is actually one-on-one counseling. And so our bankers and our credit union professionals and some of our nonprofit credit counselors came in, devoted their time. So we did programming, but we also did one-on-one credit counseling. We pulled their credit reports and sat down with them, helped them understand it, looking at their credit report, and that was really successful. And then Houston, I really wanted to focus on their marketing because I think they're very unique in that niche. They do things, I think, extremely successfully there. And Elise got me excited because she was talking about a lot of the things that they do in Houston. But they celebrate diversity. Houston is a very diverse city. You've got everybody there. So they've taken the Ben Franklin, but he's diverse. They have him in all colors and sizes. And so this was a really cute picture of some of our Ben Franklins. But they're on the buses. They're at every event. They're at our partners' events. They're everywhere. And so they incorporate that into their social media as well. But they get some media attention, so it's a good technique. And then they engage the community in fun activities, again, using social media. We did kind of a Where's Waldo, like Where's Ben Franklin, and that's the picture that you see on the bottom right. Is actually, we had heads of Ben Franklin, and we gave all of our partners those heads, and we asked them to go around the community and take pictures of, Ben Franklin in kind of funny, strange places, and we posted that all over our social media. And so that was fun. And some of the other things that they've used are, and I'm right on target. I'm looking at, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. You don't have to give me the hook. But they've done utility company inserts, and it was very low-cost marketing, TV and radio spots. One year, we utilized a local famous rapper, and he did a special rap for Money Smart Week, which I think was really fun and exciting for us. We had videos that we posted on YouTube. Social media, they do a fantastic job with social media. They utilize all their partners' correspondence so that they don't have to do an awful lot themselves. And they're always out in the community year-round talking about Money Smart Week. And I think Venus talked about all of her work out in the community there in Atlanta, and that's the same thing that they do there. They take advantage of every opportunity, especially March and April, to get the word out. So they exhibit at all their partner events. And so that's it. And I wanted to end on just, most of all, have fun. And what I mean is it's a lot of hard work. I'm not discounting that. But at some point, find a way to reward your partners because they've worked very hard and you want them to come back to the table and be your partner year-round. And so find little reasons to celebrate. Go to the city and county and get proclamations and get, your picture in the paper. Have a little fun, take some fun pictures. This is Yvonne in the dollar bill costume. I'm sorry I had to do it to you. But, just have a little fun, and that's it.
Thank you, Gina. Lots of great ideas. Now we'll hear from Dave in Wisconsin.
Not sure if we can work this. Very good. So yes, we're from the government and we're here to help. And that's part of our theme. Alejo wanted me to talk a little bit about, maybe it's a little unique in Wisconsin where we have a governor's council on financial literacy. And we've had 3 separate councils with 3 separate governors, 2 different parties. So financial literacy is really, it's not a political issue, of course, but we're lucky in Wisconsin that we have a gubernatorial level view of financial literacy. And so that helps be a bully pulpit and many other things, which I'll talk about. But Money Smart Week really, as we know, is a collaborative. It's partnering on steroids. And the more organizations you can get involved, the better. We all have something that we can give during Money Smart Week, a presentation, in-kind resources, sponsorships, variety of different topics for all age levels. So it's really just, I think, the secret sauce of Money Smart Week that just let's all focus for 1 week on this topic and bring to the table what you can bring to the table. And so I'm going to talk about the kinds of collaborations with government agencies, whether that's federal, state, it could be a county or city, maybe it's other public entities like libraries, and maybe it's a utility or something like that. So if you haven't reached out in a big way to certain agencies that really should be at the table, then that's my pitch today, is try to leverage that relationship. So I'm kind of curious, in the states that are represented here, do you have any sort of task force or council or team at kind of a governor's level, or maybe it's the treasurer's office? You do? Where?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. What do you have?
We have the Governor's Financial Literacy Council. The Treasurer's Department has a big focus on financial literacy. The Attorney General's office is very involved in consumer financial protection issues.
Sure.
So the Department of Public Instruction has a big focus
There you go.
on financial literacy. So it's Secretary of State's office is very involved. in financial education.
You should come up here. This is fantastic. This is amazing. Is it good? I mean, is it helpful?
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What I wish is that the state agencies would all figure out a way to play nicer with each other.
Yeah.
Not that they're mean to each other, don't get me wrong, it's just each agency has, or each branch has their own initiatives, and they're not really talking to each other.
There you go. That's an opportunity to do that. And so maybe that's a suggestion that if you can, not that you have to, but I can tell the Wisconsin story, and maybe this is something you can leverage in your state in helping build Money Smart Week statewide, and taking good ideas from one region and making it kind of a statewide idea. So with government agencies, just like the Federal Reserve, when you do Money Smart Week, we can say, well, this is going to be a source of unbiased financial education. We're not going to be selling products or services because we don't do that in government. And people can feel comfortable coming to the different activities or courses or whatever they might be doing, knowing that, you know, for one, money's a scary topic. And now you want me to come and I'm supposed to bring my checkbook or what, you know? So this helps, and we can kind of take that credibility of the government agencies, leverage that, and then also come up with statewide campaigns. So you take one good idea here, and you can spread it throughout the state. One thing that we, I guess, usurped from the U.S. Treasurer is this picture. This is actually a student that won a national contest that the U.S. Treasurer did, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know if you even remember it, but we're just like, oh, that's a great picture, award-winning picture. Happens to be a student at Beam in Milwaukee. And just, that was a coincidence, and we're like, we're going to get all over that. And so this is now what we use in our exhibits and so forth at our Department of Financial Institutions. So, cute kid. I think the smile says it all, and he's holding his money, and that's kind of all in one picture says what we think about Money Smart, or Money Smart Week and financial literacy. So we do have a Governor's Council in Wisconsin, 25 members appointed by the governor. And how does this work? Well, someone comes up with a list, pitch the idea to the governor's office and says, hey, why don't you sign an executive order that creates this? Who can be against it, right? And we'll get some people on there. And oh, by the way, here's a list of people who are involved in leadership roles in financial literacy. Surprise, surprise, some of them are Money Smart people, some of them are Jumpstart people, Economics Council, teachers, banks, credit unions, insurance folks, all the usual suspects. That's why it's so big. But that worked out very well, and they get together periodically, and we can have presenters talk about Money Smart Week. We can have other different types of presentations and experts that they get to hear from. In this picture, we're having a meeting of the Governor's Council in conjunction with the Money Smart Week wrap-up meeting. So this way the council members get to meet Money Smart Week folks that are out there doing volunteer work, and they have that chance that they may never ever get to have these people come together and talk and learn from each other. And they inspire each other. So I do have to point out one of our Governor Council members right here, Lori Burgess, raise your hand, hello, officially appointed, a librarian, so fantastic, and a former member, Alejo Torres, the only person from outside of Wisconsin to serve on our Governor's Council, so that was pretty cool. Thank you, Alejo and Lori. So in this picture, they're holding up, Alejo is, I guess, holding up our Governor's proclamation. Of course, it's free. The Governor can proclaim it's going to be Money Smart Week. So it's a free thing, very easy to do. How many people do that? Yep, there you go. So now it's all official, right? Oh my gosh, you know, we're all behind this. It's endorsed by the state. How often does that happen? So you can use that, and we do. And we have a letter from the First Lady of Wisconsin. And we put that letter in our printed materials. So right in the front it says, okay, this is state government, this is the Federal Reserve, and others, and so this is going to be a pretty legit thing to go to. So we use that. You'll all of a sudden notice, same day, minutes later, Lori's like, well, we want to get a picture with the Secretary of the Department, who's the Vice Chair of the Council, and there they are getting their picture with the proclamation. So what does Lori do? She goes back to Fond du Lac, she puts it onto their website. All of a sudden there's an article about that gets some media attention there, and then it makes it even easier for when TV media says, oh, you guys are doing something. Oh, what is that? And then this is Rachel Monick. She's got a morning show in Green Bay. She can look at the information and say, oh, that looks really neat. Oh, okay, so that makes it legit that way too. So it just keeps, we can use that credibility. Because we're in state government, we can do unique things and have connections. We can say, hey, how do we get the Capitol green? Let's make the dome green. It's never been done before, so we figured out how to do it and got it paid for, and voila, we have a green dome. We can do other things because this is endorsed by government and our Governor's Council. When people go out to do sponsorship drives for things like we had Oprah's Debt Diet Coach come up into the Fox Valley, and they had an evening event, a big event, expensive, but a lot of draw. So when you go out to get dollars to pay for this, when people say, oh, this is part of this approved thing, oh, okay, we want to be part of that. So that makes that possible. Working with Visa, and we can tell Visa, it's like, oh yeah, we can get some government officials or congressmen or whoever, who do you need to show up at these events. They can now, they have that partnership with the NFL, and so we got some Green Bay Packers involved, and that was huge. I mean, talk about star quality. You come to a school, you can just hear a pin drop, and the media, of course, is all there. And then Alejo, that is Alejo, standing next to a Green Bay Packer. I'm not kidding, in Green Bay. And he's from Chicago. And you know what the craziest thing is? He's a Vikings fan. There's hope for him yet. So, yes, sir. I blame you. All right. And also when you're working with that kind of on a state level then, so a good idea over here is such a good idea, can we make it happen somewhere else? That's exactly what happened, somewhat organically, but it got a little extra gasoline and power, and this is called what we call the Big Read, very similar to what you guys are doing in Washington. And so we just say, okay, we're going to have some books that we're going to read to kids that still want to be read to, so preschool, kindergarten, first, second grade, that level. And so we, in this picture, they have Bunny Money. We did Berenstain Bears, good books. But it's a great opportunity to say, hey, we're going to be doing this. We even got some sponsorship from state agencies. One idea is we got some money from our 529 college savings sponsor, which saw this as a great opportunity to promote the 529 college savings plans. Because when kids start entering school, the parents are like, and grandparents are like, we better save for college. This is starting. So they thought it was a great way to market, use their marketing dollars to do that. Every state has a 529. Maybe you can give them a call and say, do you want to buy some books? So we were able to get enough money to give books away to every kid that was in the room. And that was in 64 locations in 2012. And last year we had 154 locations. So that's just really spread. Working with the libraries was awesome because you get this big buy, so you get cheap books, and then you send them over to a library, and they have a distribution system for free that goes, oh, we need 50 over here, 20 over there, 30 there, all of a sudden it's all over the state. So that was pretty cool. Thank you, Lori, for organizing that. So just another idea. And then, so like with the Big Read, I thought this was really cool. In the middle picture, that's a high school student teaching or reading to an elementary school kid. And we didn't even anticipate that would happen, but some teachers are like, hey, that's kind of cool. We're going to create this literacy program, and we're going to have high school students read to elementary kids. I thought it was really neat. And then we were able to give the books away. And in that other picture there's a police officer reading to the kids. And I thought, oh, that's a great way to use law enforcement, another government entity, to put them in that kind of spot as well. You can have local elected officials, because who doesn't want pictures with kids, right? So that works out well. That's just one idea. And then finally, over the years we've been doing this for over a decade, and we count what the Federal Reserve's counting, that is number of participants, number of events, number of volunteer organizations, and we're like, well, what else can we track to kind of see what other impact Money Smart Week is having, at least in part. And what I like about Money Smart Week is you've got this unique platform to bring people together. You can have a banker and a credit union that would never sit at the same table, no offense, but now they're together to talk about personal finance in their community. And then the mayor's office, and then maybe someone from the school board, and someone from a utility that wants people to pay their bills, and other people. All of a sudden, it's like you got this group from the community, and they really feel ownership. And that continues on beyond, way beyond 1 week. That relationship, that new relationship, has a strong ripple effect. And so we were measuring in Wisconsin for a few years, since 2010, how many school districts. We have 422 districts, all locally controlled, so they get to decide what's being taught. And we said, well, how much personal finance is being taught in a comprehensive way, like in one semester, as a requirement for graduation? 2010 is 25%. Years later, in 2015, did a final survey, 64% now have a required course. So we can guarantee those kids are at least going to get exposure, not a one and done thing, it's a whole semester before they graduate. In part, Money Smart Week had something to do with that. It was those relationships, it was that torch is always lit. Every year we come back, it's lit again. Oh, we're doing this. What is all this financial literacy stuff about? Why isn't your school doing that? How come you're not having a reality day at your school? How come you're not having an essay contest in your school during Money Smart Week? So that kind of energy, that alone is worth it. So I think that's pretty cool. And that's, again, kind of leveraging government entities in a bigger way. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Dave. And now for the fun part. Do we have any questions from the audience? Make them hard, because these guys are really good experts. Yes?
Katrina, did you mention that when you said you set up those reading sessions that you notified the media about them?
We did send out a press release, and we pushed it every day that somebody read. We pushed it on social media, and we also, our blog has about 800 followers, and every time we write on it, it pushes an email out to all of those followers, so they see it in their inbox. They don't have to go to a specific website to see the blog. And a majority of those followers are media sources, but we didn't end up getting anybody.
Okay.
I mean, nobody.
Because when you said 7 total, I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, we
did you
got
get any
nobody.
exposure? But it doesn't sound.
No, we didn't
Okay.
get anything. It was really sad.
So Katrina, you did a blog. Did you do Twitter or a LinkedIn story or anything?
We did Twitter. We have two different Twitter handles. We have 3 different Facebook pages. We have the blog. We did 3 posts on the blog, and we were pushing stuff out every single day, probably 2 or 3 times a day, and we just didn't get anything. I don't know.
Well, maybe something we can add to your arsenal for next year is Periscope. And I think Alejo might have some ideas on that. But what fun would it be to have your video camera going during an event that anybody could pick up and see all over the world? So
Joy.
more. Kelly.
I was just going to offer a resource because there are a number of markets and states that are doing a Money Smart Kids Read, which is what we call it in Michigan, the Big Read. And thanks to Lori and Fond du Lac for helping me get ours organized. And over the course of the past couple of years, I started documenting all of these fabulous ideas that children's librarians were doing to supplement the book, right, that we chose. We've done 2 Berenstein Bears books this year. We're doing Ruby and Max, Bunny Money. But I have, and I'm willing to share, I've compiled about 5 pages of activity ideas, money-related songs, and this is really for like a 3 to 6-year-old audience. So if anyone is interested in making it really easy for libraries to do that, in Michigan we've grown to about 170 libraries. We gave away 6,500 books in 51 counties. So if anyone is interested in that little guide that I've put together, just email me and I'm happy to share that as a
Or
resource.
I'm sure they can get it from Alejo too. Now, you don't have to stick with preschool for the read. In Iowa, we do the read for about grades 3 to 6. And librarians like that. We have a question from over there.
I just had a quick question for David. David, can you speak a little bit about the process of getting this governor's council together? Did it take a long time? How did you start getting to the governor's office to create this committee?
Great question. So how do we start this? You have to kind of know someone that might know the governor or someone in the staff, and then that's where you can kind of have the first conversation. Like if they've never considered a council on financial literacy before, then you kind of have to warm them up to that idea. And that could be star power that you might have in your state. Maybe it's a legislator that's really big on this, that says we'd like to see that in, you know, some kind of hook. And then you get in the door, and then you have that conversation, and it's just like, and then I just say, well, look, I mean, getting behind this is really easy. You can, regardless of the party that you represent, who can be against financial literacy, and it's great visibility, and you can say, you know, you can get pictures, you can do all these things. So it's a wonderful thing, and you can bring people together for actually a very important issue, too. You think about the mortgage crisis and all the other, you know, if we're heading into a recession again, why wouldn't the governor want to focus attention on personal finance? So then you have to have the mechanics behind that, and that's basically, in our state, we use an executive order. You can literally write it. I mean, ours is online. You could go there and take from there. And so you just invent it on paper. So I literally wrote it and just said, well, here it is. And they're like, yeah, it looks good. All right. I mean, that's all it is. And then said, well, who should be on it? Well, of course you would want some, you know, industry, some educators, some advocates, and that type of thing. And then I just wanted to mention, so then we create the council, and then for Money Smart Week, we did a membership drive. We didn't really call it that, but so we had the First Lady of Wisconsin invited, so we invented these invitations that look nice, to have organizations come to the governor's residence. And we sent them to the CEO or the president. And you're going to get invited to the governor's residence, your organization's going to show up. And they did. And so we had a sign-up sheet and said, this is something we want to do in Wisconsin. I think, I don't know, Cindy, were you at the first one for that?
Not the first one, the second.
Okay. Cindy's with the credit union, and in fact, actually, I think it was your idea for the big read or in that area.
Or community.
Both of you guys, okay, I'm sorry. And so that kind of snowballed out into the bigger read. But having a membership drive, I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I don't know, has anyone done something like that where, how do you get more people involved?
You know,
Could you do that? It was free, right, as the governor's president?
leveraging your local Jumpstart Coalition might be a good place to start. And governors are very big right now on public-private partnerships. So if you can show that both the government agencies and the private industries are behind it, you've got a good shot. Question here.
Yes, for David, I think it's two questions. The first one is, how do we get banks and financial institutions to work together to address financial wellness, since that's obviously a difficult thing for them to do? And two, how do we leverage policymakers to sort of make it a requirement that they work together to address financial wellness?
Yeah, first question, how do you get maybe competitors together at the same table? That's another thing government is really good at. It has convening power. We're going to have a meeting. Your people will show up, and they're going to be there, right? Because I wouldn't want to be there if the banks are going to be there, if the credit unions are going to be there. So they show up and say, here's the mission, and this is for the people of our state. It's about education. It's about lifting people, and that's what this mission is. So that's, if a regulator convenes the meeting, they're going to come, right? And then what was the second part?
How do we leverage policymakers to make
Policymakers.
cooperation?
Heck. You invite them to a read, right? You invite them to some of your activities. You have them write a column, or you write the column and stick it, you know, maybe you guys could write something in your district. And just by having all these big activities and doing the good jobs that we do, they're going to notice that. You can how about invent an award? So we did, the Governor's Financial Literacy Award. It's the annual award. And you could do something like that. And so who would want to be part of that, you know?
Great answer. Diane.
I'm Diane from Northwest Indiana, and a couple of groups that we've worked with that have helped us immensely is number one, the Bank On effort, which is an FDIC effort. We've gotten them really involved. Through that, we got the state treasurer who came and spoke at an event. We also have had the South Shore, which is a transit company between South Bend and Chicago, approach us because they want to go cashless, which would, you know, really have a great effect on the unbanked and the underbanked. Well, the Bank On effort would help those people get credit and debit cards. And they are advertising for us and going to advertise Money Smart Week for us.
Awesome. Yes. I have a question for Gina. You've helped found several new campaigns. What advice do you have for inviting partners and inviting sponsors?
Okay, well, I don't touch the sponsorship, so I'm going to probably dance around that one being a government entity. But we have a wonderful fundraising chair in each of our markets who does the asking for us. And I think the key is, and Shirley can talk to this especially, she's our new chair of our new campaign in southern New Mexico, woo-woo! And she's doing it the same way everybody does it, is she's a banker and she issues a challenge. And she's like, my bank's putting up this amount of money, who's going to meet it? And they're very competitive, and so that's an effective tool. As far as starting a new campaign, it's interesting that you say this because we just started Southern New Mexico last year, and word got up to Northern New Mexico that we were in New Mexico now, and they want one as well. The key is finding a champion, without a doubt. The Federal Reserve is a huge supporter, clearly, of Money Smart Week, FDIC as well, but we're not in those cities. It really, it's a lot of work to do a statewide effort, and I know you guys that are chairs for statewide efforts can tell me this, but you really kind of need to drill down into the local areas, and so finding that champion and getting someone to energize everybody else, and I would just say create excitement, issue challenges, and keep everybody engaged.
Good answer. Any other questions? Jackie?
For Dave, for the book that you created, how did you pay for it? Where did you get the funding for it?
It's lovely.
I'll leave it out. This is, Milwaukee did this, and this is a thing, it's a dangerous thing when you let people do whatever they want to do, right, Alejo? And that's a good thing too, because then communities own their own Money Smart Week. So they decided in Milwaukee that, Money Smart Week is, being smart about money is not a week long, it's all year, right? Okay, so they're like, we're gonna, instead of having all of our efforts go into a one publication, they created a resource book, and that also has some of their events that are happening on, but this is to be used all year round. And so they got sponsorship from some of the local businesses. My department put some dollars into it. I think the Federal Reserve did initially, and then they just kind of, now they use this in job centers, they use it in community development centers, and all year round, so it's a resource that they update every day.
Awesome. Great resource. Yes?
My question's for Gina. Gina, on one of your slides, I saw the Junior Achievement logo on the podium, probably the kids' essay contest.
Mm-hmm.
How did you partner with Junior Achievement on the essay contest? And just out of curiosity, how many entries did you have?
Okay, that actually was a really easy relationship. It came to us just organically, but that was Austin, and the Jumpstart there, the president was a huge supporter, clearly of financial education, and he had an annual fundraiser, and we talked him into doing it in April, and so we would combine our press conference with his luncheon, and so Jumpstart's annual fundraiser brought attention to Money Smart Week, or Financial Fitness Greater Austin, and FFGA then with the press release and the press conference brought attention to Jumpstart. And so it was Junior Achievement, I'm sorry. So it was a natural organic relationship that both entities benefited from, and that's how that happened.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. I have a question for Katrina. You mentioned that it's hard to get in schools. And having Ben Franklin visits in schools in Iowa, I know it's very difficult to get into the schools. What pitch opens the door for you best?
Feels like it was so far back at this point. We just talked a lot about, this is such a great program, and we've had some good success with it in the past, and the kids were really responsive last year, and we'd really like to come in, and we'd like to bring financial education, and just kind of pushing the education part was really good, because they're like, yeah, our kids get bored from day to day. They're in preschool and kindergarten. They want fun people to come in and talk to them. So the principals are like, yeah, that sounds like a really good time.
So you talk to principals?
Yes,
Email, phone call?
Initially, I sent an email, and if I didn't hear back from them within a week, I'd make a phone call. A lot of the times I got to the secretaries, and they're like, yeah, we'll give them a message. They don't give them a message. Was not very happy. But if I couldn't get a hold of them, I always had a backup school ready to go. So if, again, gave it another week, didn't hear from them, I went to a new school.
Okay. Did you ever contact teachers directly?
No, just because it was kind of ultimately, I did a couple of times, I guess, and they were like, we got to ask our principals first. It's ultimately their decision. So then we just went directly to principals. And I mean, it was the ones I got a hold of, it was yes. Every principal said yes. I just had to get hold of them first, which was the hard part.
And one thing we found is once you get in, you're good for the next few years because they want you to come back.
Yeah, I've got a database of all the schools were like, yes, come back next year. And we actually do it the whole month of April, just so that they have the entire 30 days of the month, 31 days, to, pick a time for us to come in and we say, hey, it's totally up to you. Whenever you want us to come, well, that's what we'll schedule for.
Right, that helps a lot. And we do a poster contest also, and we leave behind paper for the teachers.
And we leave the books. We give them 2 books. We leave one in the classroom, and then we give one to the school library.
Yeah, so that's great. Another question? Yes?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, if you can get on the docket at one of the school board meetings, that's one way that we've been very successful with regards to talking about financial education. Particularly, they've given us time to introduce our concept, and at that point, they're excited. And so some of the school board meetings are another way to get in the door.
Al, how do you get on the school board docket?
Well, it's like Gina says, it's kind of organic. We basically, it's really who you know. It's networking. For the most part, we are engaged in a community as it relates to some of the local nonprofits, Girls and Boys Clubs, things like that. So some of these people are always coming out, wanting to promote their self in a positive manner. So it says, hey, we've got a financial education program that we want to do. Can I get 10 minutes to come and just share what we're trying to do with you, the members? And a lot of times, if you can get on the board, or even some of the in-service days that they have, where teachers have to report, and they're always looking for new and creative ways. So that's one thing that we've also been successful in doing.
And what's your ask to the school board?
I just basically ask them, can I come and talk about financial literacy?
When you're at the meeting, what is your ask? Are you asking to get into the classrooms? Are you asking to get your materials there? Are you asking them to distribute Money Smart Week stuff?
I'm asking all of the above.
Okay.
However I can get in, because once I'm in, I'll persuade them.
Okay, so you do have an ask when you're at the meeting?
Right.
Okay, good.
Last question, and I know we probably didn't talk about this a lot, but maybe you guys can provide some insight. STEM and financial literacy is huge, and I know that a lot of our educators in Georgia are asking, how can you activate STEM with this financial literacy piece that you're coming in with? So any tactics from anybody in the room, how have you guys been able to integrate STEM with some of the financial literacy programs that you guys do?
Many ways, but one of your biggest is look at your state standards, pick out the exact state standard that it meets, and tell your teacher or the principal, this program meets this standard. That's what the teacher needs, and there's standards for every grade. One last question.
I just want to add to that the FDIC Money Smart for young people has direct tables and guides on how to integrate that program from kindergarten to 12th grade to math, English, and social studies to the standards. And so you can literally take that curriculum and match it up to the standards in your state in those 3 topics. Takes the guesswork out of it.
And STEM is a hot topic right now anyway, so they're looking for ways. There are STEM councils all over. In fact, there's a website that lists all the STEM councils and what they're doing, and there's a regular email newsletter that goes out once a week with who's doing what in Arkansas or Washington or Iowa or Illinois or whatever. Shirley, last question.
In our state, as far as getting into the schools, in our state, we've organized foundations that are nonprofit groups in local school districts. The foundations raise funds from all kinds of institutions for special projects for teachers that are not considered in the school budget. They just don't have fundings for them. It might be a special trip to the Space Center, so it's money for buses, things of that sort. And then the teachers have to apply for a grant from the foundation to have things. But we go in, and in southern New Mexico, we donated $500 to the school that in our first year sponsored, one teacher got 18 mid-school students to participate in the essay and the art project for Money Smart Week. We donated $500 to her class. And you do that through the foundation. You might check and see, getting into the school to teach, they may not have the money to allocate for that because they're so heavily allocated. Find out what that is, because if you're bringing your own money to the table, they should let you in.
And that would be like parent-teacher organizations or parent-teacher associations.
Yes.
You know, there's one other group that we haven't really mentioned that's a real hot button for financial education and STEM, and that is the family and consumer science teachers. Most states, I believe almost all the states, have what they call Perkins money. And that flows through the family and consumer science teachers. And they can apply for grants to use that type of material in their classroom. So you might check that out through your state family and consumer science association or their American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences, AAFCS.
Or career and technical education.
Career and tech is another one, and they've kind of moved some family and consumer science into that. So that's a good resource for getting into local schools. Alejo, are we out of time? I figured. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have questions, I'm sure that all three of these people will be up here.